Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right in today because we are unpacking one of the absolute greatest, most misunderstood mysteries out there: how real wealth is actually built. And we're not talking about Wall Street tycoons or flashy tech billionaires here. No, we're looking at a completely ordinary, everyday guy, an elderly school janitor. We're going to see exactly how this incredibly unassuming man mastered a quiet, almost entirely invisible process to build a truly staggering fortune. Let's get right to it.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the juxtaposition here is just wild. You know, to everyone in town, he was just a guy rattling around in a 20-year-old pickup truck. He just pottered through his small American town, totally ignoring the shiny luxury SUVs flying past him. He lived in this extremely modest house, plain furniture, clipped his grocery coupons, and meticulously compared prices at the store. But hiding right behind that super frugal exterior was a shocking reality. He was actually a secret millionaire and the proud owner of several high-quality companies.
So, naturally, people made assumptions. Because of his quiet lifestyle, the community figured he was barely getting by. I mean, you would too, right? They thought he was struggling financially because he was literally only ever purchasing the bare necessities. To the whole town, he was just an ordinary school janitor. Before sunrise, while everyone else was sound asleep, he'd put on his worn-out work clothes, lace up his practical shoes, unlock the school, and push his cleaning cart through those empty, echoing hallways. To anyone looking, he was the textbook definition of a guy living paycheck to paycheck.
Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that daytime routine. It's incredibly respectable, but it sure doesn't explain the millions of dollars. So we have to ask the critical question: what exactly was he doing after work? When the mop got put away and he clocked out, what happened? Well, this is where our story takes a hard left turn, shifting from that mundane daily grind to the real secret engine of his wealth.
The hidden engine: buying pieces of businesses. While other folks in town might have been out spending their paychecks trying to impress people they barely knew, his evening routine looked entirely different. Picture this: he's sitting down at a simple wooden table, just a small lamp clicking on, no television blaring in the background. Instead, he's studying financial newspapers. He's meticulously reading through company annual reports and examining these long-term stock charts. Quietly and very methodically, he was buying pieces of real, tangible businesses.
And he didn't just do this for a couple of years. He executed this plan with absolutely unwavering discipline for 5 decades. Starting way back in the 1970s, he just kept right on going. Through the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, right into the 2010s. Through sunny days and brutal rainy days, when the economy was booming, he kept buying, and when the market suffered those terrifying, stomach-churning crashes, he didn't panic, he didn't sell, he just maintained his discipline and never, ever stopped his routine.
The invisible force. The math of compounding.
So here is the absolute crux of it all. This janitor understood a crucial concept that honestly, most people just never learn. Money can actually work way harder than people can. When you invest capital, it starts generating earnings completely independently. And then, and here's the magic, those earnings start generating their own earnings. It produces this exponential growth without an ounce of extra physical labor from you. He was physically pushing a mop by day, but his money was working 24/7.
It's exactly like a tiny snowball rolling down a massive mountain. At first, you can't even see the growth. It's totally invisible. It just looks like this tiny little speck of snow. But as it keeps rolling, it gathers momentum. It picks up more snow, rolling faster and faster, until it becomes absolutely enormous.
And in real life, here's how that snowball effect actually played out for him. At first, a few dollars slowly became hundreds. Then, those hundreds became thousands. As the years turned into decades and, as his hair turned gray, those thousands accelerated dramatically into hundreds of thousands. And eventually, just by naturally aging through time, those hundreds of thousands transformed into millions. The way it accelerates at the end is just a total mathematical marvel.
The shocking discovery: uncovering the secret. It wasn't until he passed away that the true, massive scope of his life's work was finally revealed. His family was sitting in a quiet, respectful hospital setting, just going through the totally standard process of sorting out his paperwork. And then, boom, they find these massive account statements. I mean, absolute shock. Former coworkers, people who had seen him in those same worn-out work clothes for years, were just completely stunned. The local paper ran headlines, and it sent this massive wave of disbelief right through the entire community. The guy they all pegged as poor was actually incredibly wealthy.
Millions of dollars. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. It is a visceral, staggering amount of money. Especially when you remember, this was a guy who sat at his kitchen table cripping coupons to save 50 cents on groceries. This wealth wasn't just cash in a bank. It was the physical representation of a lifetime of quiet, unyielding discipline.
Which brings us to this really beautiful contrast. The public perception was super simple. They looked at him and they saw an old janitor. They judged his entire net worth based on a rusty truck and a humble house. But his true identity, how he viewed himself, he saw himself as an owner. While he was sweeping the cafeteria, his mindset was that of a top-tier investor who literally owned pieces of the most profitable businesses on the planet.
The final lesson: time and patience. Look, if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer today, please let it be this. True wealth, the kind of wealth that actually changes family trees, it is not built in a single day. It's not built through blind luck, and it is certainly not built through risky, overnight shortcuts. As our extraordinary janitor proved, it's built through patience, through discipline, and through time.
There's a quote from the source material that just perfectly wraps this all up. The most powerful force in investing is not money. It is time. Think about that. It wasn't his meager janitor's salary that made him a multimillionaire. It was his willingness to just let his money sit there, grow and compound over 50 years. So I'm going to leave you with this final vital question to think about. Are you giving your money the time it actually needs to work for you? Are you out there chasing stressful shortcuts, or are you ready to embrace the quiet, incredibly powerful discipline of the snowball effect? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay focused on the long game, and I'll catch you next time.